In today's news, Luderitz residents enraged about recent murder. Namibia Chamber of Environment concerned about possible collapse of the pilchard species in the future. I am Glenna Rashipura and this is NMH at 1, where we bring you up to speed with current events and news making headlines. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with these stories and more. In incoming news this morning, the late Alpheus Muhewa will be laid to rest at Oshangundu village in the Daurias constituency in Erongo region on Friday. Now, the funeral arrangements were confirmed to Nampa by a close relative, Hofni Kanenjambo, who added that Muhewa will be buried next to his mother as per his last wish. Do stay tuned. We take a trip around the country when we come back with visual news.
Choose your Flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in 1 bundle. It's new, it's 1 bill, and you can stay connected in more than 1 location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Let's have a look at our visual news from across the regions. Now, in our first video, residents of Luderitz took to the streets to condemn the murder of farm worker Edmund Muntete yesterday. This clip was contributed.
An angry crowd of people gathered in front of Rife's pharmacy in Luderitz yesterday, knocking on the front door and demanding that the police find the owner, 59-year-old Puni van Zyl, and arrest him. This comes after the body of 33-year-old Edmund Muntete was found in the desert about 48 kilometers from Luderitz last Tuesday. Before his death, Muntete was employed by van Zyl on his farm about 200 kilometers from the coastal town. Deputy Commissioner Crispin Mubebo, coordinator of crime investigations in the Karas region, said that van Zyl was not a suspect. The police do not yet have a suspect, he said. The investigation is still in its infancy. The allegations of murder originated on social media. It does not come from the police, he added. Mubebo confirmed that Muntete had been missing since last Sunday and that police had found his body with his family in the desert on Tuesday when they went to look for him. In the meantime, a post-mortem was done in Windhoek on Friday. Republicans spoke to van Zyl yesterday, who confirmed that Muntete had been in his service for a short time and that he had made a full statement to the police. He says Muntete presumably suffered from a mental illness and did not use any medication. Piet Esu, van Zyl's farm foreman, said in a telephonic interview yesterday that van Zyl arrived on the farm with Muntete last Friday afternoon with the aim of employing him. He said that he had showed Muntete where he could live and gave him a pack of meat. Muntete allegedly cooked it, but then threw it over the fence and just ate porridge. Esu said he did not know why Muntete had done this. Esu added that Muntete had indicated he does not want to live in the house that they had given him. According to Esu, van Zyl took Muntete back to Luderitz with him on Sunday afternoon. Van Zyl did not want to comment on the allegations against him on social media and said he was advised by his lawyer, Louis Legrantie of Keetmanshoop, to refer all inquiries to him by journalists. Legrantie said although he himself was not seen the post-mortem examination report, according to his information there were no marks or injuries to Muntete's body, indicating assault.
Now, in our next video, the Namibia Chamber of Environment, an umbrella organization of environmental groups, warns that unless a moratorium against pilchard sardine fishing stays in place, the species faces a total population collapse. And as NCE CEO Dr. Chris Brown also talks about the urgent reform needed in managing Namibia's marine resources, which led to a near total collapse of the pilchard population in the first place. This contribution was compiled by Yana Marie Smith.
This fish stock has essentially totally collapsed. In the 1960s, there was about 11 million tons of pilchards in Namibian waters. Today, there's about 50,000 tons. An absolutely devastating collapse in the whole fish stock. the situation has arisen as a result of overfishing. You know, people will say climate change and a whole range of things, some of which make minor contributions to what's happening. But the major impact, the major cause is overfishing. Well, we've had a 3-year moratorium, and that hasn't resulted in a significant increase in the sardine stock. So we need to extend that. And we are suggesting that we need at least a 10-year moratorium, and we're going to try and rebuild this fish resource. But it's not the length of time that's important, it's what's happening to the resource that's important. And we would like to see that no quotas are given until the sardine stock has reached at least 1 million tons off our coast. The whole pilchard and sardine, which is the same species, is a really good case study. For years and years, the Ministry of Fisheries has been a very secretive, opaque institution in terms of sharing information. The fish stock assessments by the scientists are not made known, they're not put in the public domain. The recommendations on quotas are not put in the public domain. The decision by the minister and the rationale for that decision are not put in the public domain. So we don't have a thread of logic going through to the decision-making process. It's all done secretively. Given the fact that the institutions weren't appropriately structured and the right people on them, the fact that there was all the secrecy led to a situation where the Ministry of Fisheries was almost like a mafia-type clique at senior levels. As a result of that, you had corruption and bad practices extending to the extent that we know of today. So the corruption that we've seen, the fish rot situation that we've seen, is really a symptom of poor governance, poor administration, the wrong institutional mechanisms, and a lack of transparency. Also a sense that the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources owned the marine ecosystem. They were the owners. They could dictate what happened there. Everything was kept secret, and they had a controlling influence on what was happening there. When we are looking at the failures within the Ministry of Fisheries and what they've been doing and how they've been doing it, our objective is not to pull anything down or anyone down. Our objective is to arrive at a situation which long-term is sustainable and is making the right decisions for the country. And I would also like to emphasize the point that the current minister and his executive director, both of them are new to the ministry. They have no responsibility for the situation we're in today. But it is their responsibility to address this situation and make it right, so these sorts of errors don't occur in future. It's really a no-brainer that all future quotas should be allocated in an open, transparent, and competitive basis to pre-screened companies that have the capacity to fulfill the quotas. That those companies have no violations of the Fisheries Act or any other evidence of corruption, and those companies being prepared to land their stock on Namibian territory and process them here in Namibia. And the whole thing should be done in a sustainable, optimal, transparent, and accountable manner. The income from the sale of quotas should go into the National Treasury. The ministry needs to reform in terms of its openness and information sharing. Information on key biodiversity indicators, the quota on stocks, the stock assessments, all of that information needs to be in the public domain. There should be peer review mechanisms to determine the rigor and reliability of the assessments and the decision-making process. And we need to have open and transparent decision-making and data sharing. Fish stocks are national assets. Their sustainable use should be for the benefit of the entire nation and for nation building. The Ministry of Fisheries should not be seen as the primary or even the senior institution involved. What we need to do is set up a coastal and marine sustainability council, an overarching council that is chaired by an independent chair, for example, a retired judge, and that has representative from different government agencies, from the private sector, from academia, and from NGOs. And their objective should be to make sure that the marine ecosystem is managed and used optimally and sustainably for the benefit of the entire Namibian population. The Sea Fisheries Advisory Council should be reformed. The power and the voice of the private sector fishing companies should be significantly reduced. They should be represented, but their power and authority should be significantly reduced. And the scientists, fishery scientists, should be there, and NGOs that are interested in long-term environmental sustainability should be on that council.
Thank you for the dissemination of that information. Now, when we return, we'll be taking a sneak peek inside today's daily print publications, but first, a quick ad break. Staying with NMH at 1, now let's take a look at our local daily newspapers. Now, the Namibian Sun reports that the Anti-Corruption Commission has completed its probe into alleged corrupt activities regarding a strategic fuel storage facility at Walvis Bay and has handed its finding to the Prosecutor General. On page 3 of the Namibian Sun, it is reported that the Popular Democratic Movement is demanding that Parliament amends Article 47 of the Namibian Constitution, which requires those running for public office while employed in the public service to resign before campaigning. Now, the Republican reports that an angry crowd gathered in front of Rijks Pharmacy in Lodewijk yesterday and demanded that the police find and arrest the 59-year-old owner of the pharmacy, Pony van Zyl. This follows after the body of the 33-year-old Edmund Mutete was found in the desert about 48 kilometers from Lodewijk last Tuesday. Before his death, Mutete was employed by van Zyl on his farm about 200 kilometers from the coastal town. Republican reports that heavy talks on various fronts with heads of state, businessmen, and world government officials were on President Hage Geingo's program during his recent European tour. The Algemene Zeitung reports that according to the World Bank, 1.6 million Namibians live in poverty. That's about 70% of the entire Namibian population. To counter this problem, demands for a basic income grant are being renewed. Now, the Algemene Zeitung reports that the majority of the camp of the Elephant Human Relations Aid organized has been destroyed. A flash flood tore down the camp located on the banks of the Oegap River a week ago. Now, the damage is estimated at over 800,000 Namibian dollars. The Namibian reports energy experts have questioned the decision by the National Petroleum Corporation of Namibia to sell half of its stake in an oil drilling license in the Kavango East region, thereby pushing Raccoon Africa's stake up to 95%. Now, the Namibian reports that NamPower has offered a $1,000 incentive to encourage more employees to get vaccinated against COVID-19. In the New Era, it is reported that advisors of the Benguela Current Commission's Marine Spatial Management and Governance Project are questioning how the Namibian marine phosphates got hold of the map that was supposed to only be in the hands of senior government officials. In the New Era, it is reported that the city of Windhoek has urged residents to use water sparingly as the capital reserves may reach critical or low levels following damage to a NAM water pipeline a fortnight ago. Now, the Zone reports about 19-year-old Saskia Taime, who managed to obtain a private pilot's license while doing a paramedic course in just over a year after finishing her high school journey. Now, before we move on to our economic news, let's go to the markets.
Swiping or tapping your FNB Visa card is the safest, easiest, most rewarding way to transact.
Because if you swipe your FNB Visa debit or credit card 3 times a month, you'll automatically be entered into the draw to win your share of a mammoth 250,000 Namibian dollars. Competition ends 15 February 2022. T's, C's and rules apply. Switch to FNB, Bank of the Changeables.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Now let's have a look at our economic news. Now in our first story, uproar over Namibia's 5.9 million auction of 57 elephants. Now, there's been an uproar in Namibia over the country's capture and auction of 57 elephants worth about 5.9 million Namibian dollars. The country's Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism said the elephants were successfully sold on an auction and now authorized are charged with their capture. A total of 37 elephants have already been captured, consisting of 15 to remain in Namibia and 22 to be exported to a destination to be announced at the end of the tender process, the statement said. Now, it's been speculated that the elephants were sold to China, but the government has denied that the animals were bought by the Chinese dealers. A campaign has since been launched on change.org, a petition website against the sale of the elephants. Now, the petition, which had over 7,100 digital signatories by 14 p.m. on Monday, was started by a group based in Germany called Pragmatic Alternatives to Trophy Hunting. Now, next story, positive growth expected as economy rebounds. Now, Director for Research and Financial Sector Development at the Bank of Namibia, Emma Hayambo, said the bank estimates a positive growth from 2021. This is after the domestic economy performed very poorly in 2022, registering a negative growth of 8.5%. Now, overall domestic economic activity recovered in 2021 compared to 2020. The increase in economic activity was observed in major sectors such as mining, wholesale and retail trade, communication and tourism. Risk to the domestic economic outlook in the medium term includes sudden surges in COVID-19 cases and vaccine hesitancy. Now, in 2021, we estimated a recovery in the economy to the growth will be around 1% in 2023. Our forecast is pointing towards a further improvement of around 3%, she stated last week at the announcement of the repo rate. Now, last week, Central Bank Governor Johannes Gavagab said private sector credit extensions remain an area of concern in the economy as it remains unsatisfactory. Now, in the next stories, borrowers must pay back the money. DPN clarifies mutual responsibilities of lending and borrowing. In the wake of emerging calls for write-offs on loan repayments for small and medium enterprises issued with the purpose of enhancing Namibia's development, economic activity and prosperity, Development Bank of Namibia Executive for Marketing and Corporate Communications, Jerome Mutumba, has amplified important aspects of mutual responsibility for lending and borrowing, which he stated must be factored into the concept of development finance. This clarification comes after the Black Business Leadership Network of Namibia has been up in arms about the repossession of businesses and homes by commercial banks as well as DBN. Mutumba explained that there is a distinction between finance for development and commercial finance. Mutumba noted that in making the choice between sources of commercial or development finance, the borrower will envisage the same outcome regardless of the source of finance. Now, a development finance institution may, for instance, accept a greater degree of risk offer capacity development services its borrowers and for flexibility on repayments. Up next, let's have a look at our economic indicators. Looking at our exchange rates, the British pound, the euro, US dollar and Chinese yuan maintained their values, with the pound now equivalent to $20.63. Capricorn investment groups dropped by 10% on the NSX stock market, while other closing prices remained the same. Trustco Group Holdings saw a 14.20% rise on the stock market, now trading at 1.37 on the stock market, while other stock prices remained the same. Only gold shows an increase in value, while other commodities reduced in value. Copper reduced by 0.58% in value. We'll be back shortly with the news from across the continent. tech news around Africa. Now, in our first story, called Mining Site Blast Reportedly Kills 59 in Burkina Faso. A strong explosion near a gold mining site in southwestern Burkina Faso killed 59 people and injured more than 100 others on Monday, the national broadcaster and witness reported. Now, the provisional toll was provided by regional authorities following the blast in the village of Gomblora, RTP reported. Now, the explosion was believed to have been caused by chemicals used to treat gold that were stocked at the site. Now, Burkina Faso is the fastest growing gold producer in Africa and currently the fifth largest on the continent, with gold being the country's most important export. Now, the small-scale mines were also reportedly used by jihadists linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, which have staged attacks in the country since 2016. Now, the groups reportedly raised funds by taxing miners and also used the mine sites for recruiting fighters and seeking refuge. In our next story, Mozambique government's website down for several hours after hack. Now, Mozambique on Monday said the Portal Housing government website was hit by a cyber attack, forcing it to take the system offline for several hours. He described the attack as web defacement type, and a local private-run news website, Carta de Mozambique, said the web pages had been replaced by images associated with jihadists. Portals that publish information for public consumption were attacked. A senior government official responsible for electronic communication systems, Hermino Jase, told reporters. Now, after the attacks, we immediately shut down the server. This created some concerns from people trying to access the site, he said. Now, in the next story, South African police kill 8 suspected robbers in an attempted cash theft. South African police killed 8 would-be robbers during a foiled heist on a vehicle carrying cash, the police minister said on Monday, in one of the country's deadliest shootouts in recent years. Now, police acted on a tip-off and deployed a helicopter to fend off planned cash-in-transit robbery in southern Johannesburg suburb of Rustenville. Now, the suspect fired at the police chopper and wounded one of the pilots, forcing police to shoot back. Now, 3 other policemen were injured. The minister said a gang of about 25 gunmen from the southeastern KwaZulu-Natal province, as well as from neighboring Zimbabwe and Botswana, were involved in the attempted robbery. 8 of the surviving gang members were arrested and the rest are on the run, he said. Next up, we'll be looking at international news right after the break. Welcome back. Now let's have a look at our international news. Now, U.S. begins counter-terrorism training in Africa amid upheaval. Now, the United States' yearly counter-terrorism training program for African forces began on Sunday in Ivory Coast at a time of upheaval in which Islamist fighters control large areas. Coups are on the rise and French forces are winding down. Now, the training program known as Flintlock will bring together more than 400 soldiers from across West Africa to bolster the skills of forces, some of which are under regular attack by armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. Those not present included forces from Guinea and 2 countries worst hit by Islamic violence, Mali and Burkina Faso. Military juntas have snatched power in those 3 countries since 2020, raising concern about a return to West Africa's post-colonial reputation as a coup belt. Central to this year's training is coordination between different forces fighting the same enemy. A main focus of Flintlock is information sharing. If we can't communicate, we can't work together, said Admiral Yami Sanz, commander of the U.S. Special Operations Command Africa, at the opening ceremony. Now, in our next story, thousands of children in United Arab Emirates have no access to schooling. Now, thousands of migrant children in the United Arab Emirates to go without school and healthcare, according to a story by the Washington Post. Many of the children are without birth certificates because they were born without married parents, or because their families could not pay hospital bills, or for other reasons, the news reported said on Sunday. Now, quoting residents, foreigners outnumber locals nearly 9-1 in the UAE, the vast majority of them being low-paid workers from underdeveloped countries. According to the report, two senior Philippine government officials said that just within the country's Filipino migrant community, the number of undocumented children runs into thousands. Now, in our next story, Russia is facing new sanctions after Putin recognizes breakaway Ukraine regions. Now, the United States and its European allies are poised to announce a harsh new sanctions against Russia on Tuesday after President Vladimir Putin formally recognized two breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine, escalating a security crisis on the continent. Now, the Ukrainian military said 2 soldiers were killed and 12 wounded in shelling by pro-Russian separatists in the east in the past 24 hours, the most casualties this year, as ceasefire violations increase. Now, Putin's announcement on Monday drew international condemnation and immediate U.S. sanctions, with President Joe Biden signing an executive order to halt U.S. business activity in the breakaway regions. Now, the United States will impose sanctions on Russia for this clear violation of international law and Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, told reporters. Do stay tuned for more news right after the break. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Now let's have a look at our local sports news. Now, Brave Gladiators, a win in today's final round qualifiers of the 22 Africa Women's Cup of Nations against Zambia could mark a significant turning point for Namibian women's football, as the country's Brave Gladiators will be fighting to secure a spot at the continent competition. The match kicks off at 1500 hours. Brave Warriors striker Aubrey Amsep purple patch continued as he scored 2 goals for his new club Masoyoika in their 2-1 victory over Extension Gunners in the Botswana Premier League at the Royal Ari Stadium on Sunday. Now, Amsep struck in the 26th and 87th minute to lead his team to their first victory in 5 matches. Now, in our next story, the Namibia Bowling Association over the past weekend held its trials to select a national team as well as players that will represent the country at the 2022 Commonwealth Games slated for Birmingham, England. Now, the selected teams will travel to Cape Town, South Africa over the Easter weekend to participate in Western Province Bowls tournament. Do stay tuned for highlights.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag #paybackthemoney.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Now, before we move on to our highlights, let's take a look at our international sports news. Now, David De Gea returns to the city of his birth and club where he grew up tomorrow as Manchester United head to Atletico Madrid in a Champions League clash between two giants that have fallen on hard times. Now, in the next story, the Vodacom Bulls were dealt a massive setback when Springbok fly half Morné Steyn was handed a 3-match ban by a disciplinary panel of the Vodacom United Rugby Championship. Steyn, who was red-carded in the Bulls' loss to the Cell Sea Sharks at Luftus in the round 12 fixture. Now, in the next story, Peter Mosimane Al-Hai have been handed an enormous boost ahead of this weekend's CAF Championship League clash against Mamelodi Sundowns. The reigning African champions are set to play host to South Africa's title bearers on Saturday when the two sides meet in the Group A of the Champions League. Let's have a look at our weather. Let's have a look at the highlights. Now, the late Alpheus Muhewa will be laid to rest at Oshongundu village in the Daures constituency in Erongo region on Friday. The funeral arrangements were confirmed to Nampa by a close relative, Hofni Kanjembo, who added that Muhewa will be buried next to his mother as per his last wish. A strong explosion near gold mining site in southwestern Burkina Faso killed 59 people and injured more than 100 others, Monday it reported. Now, the national broadcaster and witness reported this. The United States' yearly counter-terrorism training program for African forces began on Sunday in Ivory Coast at a time of upheaval in which Islamist fighters control large areas. Coups are on the rise and French forces are winding down. Now, a win in today's final round qualifier of the 2022 Africa Women's Cup of Nations against Zambia could mark a significant turning point for Namibian women's football as the country's brave gladiators will be fighting to secure a spot at the continental competition. The match kicks off at 1500 hours. Now, David De Gea returns to the city of his birth and club where he grew up tomorrow as Manchester United head to Atletico Madrid in a Champions League clash between two giants that have fallen on hard times. There's been an uproar in Namibia over the country's capture and auction of 57 elephants worth about 5.9 million Namibian dollars. Now, those were your highlights, and you can catch us at the same time tomorrow. I am Glenora Rashipura, and I look forward to taking you through the latest news and current affairs in Namibia, Africa, and beyond, right here on NMH at 1. But before that, let's have a look at our regional review.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Regional Review. I'm Kenya Kambowe, the Namibia Media Holdings correspondent in the Northeastern regions. I'll be giving you highlights of events that unfolded in the Northeastern regions over the past week. On today's show, we'll also feature Mr. Marcelius Haivera, a teacher in Rundu, who will be telling us about how the issue of overcrowdedness in schools is affecting the quality of education in the region. Meanwhile, in history, today is World Yoga Day, so check out the next video. In our first story, we look at the official opening of the Angola and Namibian borders. Last week, the Namibia and Angola border near Rundu, known as the Sarasungu border post, was officially opened after it was closed for the past 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Citizens of both countries must present a vaccination card indicating receiving 2 doses of a COVID-19 vaccine, a national document, and a negative PCR test in order to enter either country. Those with only 1 dose of COVID-19 vaccine will be required to quarantine in the host country for a period of up to 7 days at their own cost. A PCR test is said to cost in the range of $700 Namibian. At the opening of the border, Kavango East Governor Boniface Wakudumo had this to say.
First, good morning to you. We are here to reopen the Namibia-Angola border, which was closed for almost 2 years back now. That is the reason why we are here.
Okay, but what does this mean now to the economy of our country?
Yeah, you see, the reopening of the border means socio-economic conditions have to improve in terms of the movement of our people and goods.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of illegal crossing, what does this mean as well? Because people are being forced now to get the vaccination, and what about those now who don't want?
Yeah.
What's your message to them?
The message to the people who attempt maybe to do illegal crossing, despite that they don't want to get vaccinated, the message must be very, very clear that we need really to go for vaccinations, to get your first dose as well as your second dose. And those ones who are trying to do illegal crossing, the arm of the law, the security arm, will severe deal with the people who attempt to cross illegally.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Officially open. Namibians, you heard, follow the COVID regulations. Make sure you have all your documentation and you are free to go into Angola and conduct your business activities. Thank you very much.
Works and Transport Minister John Mutorwa, who is currently in the Kavango regions on official business, could not contain his disappointment after a recent visit to the roads contractor company's office in Rundu, where he saw how an office and multi-million-dollar equipment in a sorry state. This is what transpired.
We just need to get the regional office of Roads Authority Engineering to operate from here. We cannot allow government properties just to go to waste like this. And it's a place big enough which can accommodate so many people. But this is a scandal, it's a scandal to have a government property or state property in a very decaying state like this. And I want people to quote me on this one when you report tonight. Okay, why we are here, so that the whole Namibian people can see how waste is. Also on the front page there.
No problem.
Yeah, we are wasting a lot of things.
Someone,
Even files are here.
even someone can even come and sleep here through the window.
And we don't have the money to waste, you know. If we cannot maintain what we have and use properly what we have, how do we get other things?
Okay.
This thing is, the structure is strong enough, everything is strong. You see?
So you just imagine. No, look at them. Our roads don't have those reflectors.
How much does this cost?
There is something outside, I mean. And the people are after
storeroom. Then the storeroom was maybe been dismantled. Then the thing is just there lying on the ground.
And you know what people do with that? Those stars, they will take and put in their bars for disco to reflect when they're playing the light. Yeah.
In our third story, we look at the Masubia chieftainship court battle. Following the rejection of his claim to the Masubia Traditional Authority throne, former legal drafter in the Justice Ministry, Gilbert Muhongo Mutua, has taken the matter to court, citing he is being denied his birthright. The Masubia tribe is yet to learn who the successor of the late Chief Kisco Liswani III, who died in July last year due to COVID-19, will be, as the matter is now before court. According to the court documents filed by Mutua through his lawyer, Delitungapo Ndaitwa, he turned to the High Court on an urgent basis to interdict the coronation of either James Kabati Maiba or Frederick Nalisa as the chief of the Masubia tribe. Mutua turned to court on 25 January this year, which was a day before the coronation of a new chief for the Masubia tribe. The Masubia Traditional Authority, Nalisa Maiba, the Minister of Urban and Rural Development, Erastus Utoni, Zambezi Governor Lawrence Mpofu are the respondents in this matter. In his founding affidavit, Mutua argues that neither Nalisa nor Maiba is the rightful heir to the throne, adding that the coronation was being conducted without the blessing of the Line Ministry, the Urban and Rural Development Minister.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. We have a challenge when it comes to young kids or young kids going to school. You know, teacher-learner ratio in Kavango is just, I don't know how can I term it, because it doesn't work here. We have a problem, a very big problem. We have got most of the schools who are having more learners. One class, you will find more than 100 learners, 80 learners, 70 learners. Now, as a teacher, how will you cope in terms of making sure that every learner is attended to? Because the number is very large, the number is very big. Yeah, I will give you an example. You go to Sarsungu Combined School, you can get 100 learners in a class. Go to Ndama here, very near. It is west. Go to the new school, to Maineni, or Guruguru. 110 learners in a class. Yeah, so it is just a challenge, and it is affecting even teachers emotionally. You know, the work is too much. Instead of concentrating, instead of now assisting all the learners, you end up frustrated. At the end of the day, the learners will not be attended to. Learners are losing out. So that is the problem we have around Kavango East region. Remember, Rundu is, the most, the biggest or largest town in terms of learners occupation. 50% of the learners in the whole Kavango are in Rundu. So that's why these ratio things, it is just a word there. We don't even talk about it because it is out of number with us, many learners and very few teachers.
Okay, tell us what do you think should be done to address this learner to teacher ratio? One of them obviously would be to build more skills, but how do you think, or what do you think should be done?
Yeah, well, before I come to what should be done, there is a system that is going on. I understand the ministry proposed a platoon system. This system also is affecting learners. Look, a learner will go to school today, tomorrow he or she is off. And this particular learner will be left unattended to. At the end of the day, remember, many parents are surviving on selling fat cakes, selling tomatoes and other products. Now they'll end up sending their kids to go and sell. Now, when this learner go and sell, he or she will start now knowing money. She will now start knowing the good part of having money. At the end of the day, he or she will be interested more into looking for money than going to school. Yeah, you see, even in the school grounds, you find out that learners are selling some illegal alcohols. For instance, this week from Angola, because they are used to selling something at home during these off days, they have to continue doing so. Yeah, they will even start taking it or drinking it. Yeah, at the end of the day, you now say no. The region is very high in terms of teenage pregnancy and all that. These are some of the factors that is contributing to teenage pregnancy. Now, coming to what should be done, well, I know when you talk about constructing schools, you always now touch to the relevant authority that no, they do not have money and all that. But that is the only way in order to at least reduce this challenge. More schools need to be constructed, need to be built. And we have got many teachers. Teachers are more than enough in the street. They can offer. Even if you're not building classes, we can make use of tents, temporary structures, so that these teachers can be absorbed from the street to assist these learners who are sitting there doing nothing.
Tell us now, with all these challenges, because this is something affecting the learners from a tender age, whereby they go through all these challenges. Tell us now, as the learners are graduating up to the higher levels, we come and see the national examinations. Some schools, they can't even produce one child to go to university and all that. Would you blame this on the current way our education sector is set up?
Look, if this particular learner is not taken care of from the word go, from the beginning, what more can you expect now in the secondary level? It is going to be worse. You know, education is very important. You make sure that you take care of this kid from the childhood up to the senior secondary? Well, blaming, of course, obvious the system, we must say the current system is not really taking care of the Namibian child. That is the reality. We cannot run away from it. The only way is we must just come up with ways and means on how can we maybe try to for me, the ministry or the system need to be relooked, because it is not producing. It is not producing. Look at what happened. Look at the current result that we got compared to previous. Now, instead of doing much better than expected, here we are. So meaning our system somewhere, somehow, needs to be adjusted.
Join the club, the Infinity Club with Paratus, and jump into a world of limitless connectivity. For only $599 per month excluding VAT, the new LTE Infinity Lite package that includes a Wingle will overcome all limitations. Visit paratus.africa/NA for more information.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Looking at the weather for the northeast, Rundu and Kongola can expect partly cloudy conditions today and showers tomorrow, whereafter it will clear somewhat. Temps are in the mid-30s. Rain is forecast for Nkurunkuru today, tomorrow and again on Saturday, with partly cloudy and hot conditions the rest of the time. At Katima and Kasani, patchy clouds are forecast for the next 2 days, whereafter it will be sunny and hot.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for another episode of Regional Review same time tomorrow. And keep watching NTV, the best TV in Namibia so far.